Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm your host, Michelle Stern. Was the PNP's Junior Shadow Spokesperson program a genuine investment in young people or just an election strategy? That's a question many are now asking. Before the general election, Mark Golding introduced the PNP's first ever panel of Junior Shadow Spokespersons with much fanfare, big excitement. Who recall that? Do you recall that? 2021 and 2023 again. So he presented these junior shadow spokespersons, presenting it as a bold step to give young members a greater voice in national politics. It was supposed to have appealed to the young people. Remember, they had a candidate in Lisa Hanna going up against Mark Golding, and there was a poll that was done. A blue dot poll it was, that said some 73% of the respondents believe that Lisa Hanna was more likely to attract youth vote. I didn't find a poll that said how they would have voted, but that was the perception. So the party had a big problem. They have an aging population, 55 and over, mainly support the PMP, and the majority of the Labour Party votes came from the younger people. So the junior shadow spokesperson was supposed to be an example of the PNP being the party that will give young people a voice in national affairs. It was supposed to have attracted the youth votes and expand the base. That was the plan behind it. That was how I recall it was pitched. But following the party's defeat on September 3, 2025, the program has effectively disappeared. I read that persons were asking about it. What happened to the junior shadow spokespersons? And Mark Golding, him came with an excuse. But the question that we want to ask here is, where are the junior shadow spokespersons? Why hasn't a new panel been announced, or at least reconfirm the ones that were there before, if you're waiting on something? If the initiative was truly about developing the next generation of leaders, why has it been placed on hold? Maybe you can tell me, my subscribers. Do you know why? Why would it be on hold? If this was supposed to be the savior and this is Mark Golding's signature program, why after the election all of a sudden we're not hearing nothing about it? Mr. Golding has said he is waiting for the outcome of the PNPYO's elections before making the appointments. But that explanation has done little to silence the growing speculation. Some critics argue the program was never intended to be a permanent feature of the party, but was instead designed to appeal to younger voters during the period leading up to the election campaign. In other words, Mark Golding wanted to present himself as a leader that supports young people. Whether that criticism is fair or not, one thing is clear. The PNP now has questions to answer. If the party remains committed to empowering young people, it should explain and give us a sensible explanation why the program has been shelved. When is the election in the PNPYO? And why does that matter? You have persons who are members of the PNPYO, right? You simply select them, their qualifications, what they're capable of. Select them. What does it matter whether or not they have position at the YO? That makes sense? No. The election was over. It was deflated. And I'm just not going back to anything at all that was set up to achieve a specific political outcome. That didn't work. It didn't work. And so I can't bother with it. And now people are asked about it. And I wonder, him say, oh man, we are waiting for the YO if we have an election. Why? What the election has to do with it? What is stopping you from appointing? Is what I'm saying? No, make no sense at all. Part of the problem, you see, my people, is that these risers who are amateurs and think election easy to win, They believe that election is about running polls, slogans, and forking out money. Yes, all of that is important. But without a proper message, without genuine action, you're not going to get anywhere. It takes credibility. People must believe that you mean what you say, and without them, your people are lie. I don't know who will believe them in anything. And on top of that, you hear them in a voice note, a plan for sabotage government project, right? Because them believe say this is what will make them win the election, right? This is what will make them win the election if the government project fail. And then them can do like what you see them doing now. Talk about how this is not happening and that is not happening and who is waiting. And while I'm doing that, then behind the scenes, I make sure it's not happen for the people. A more evil set of people, I cannot imagine. And so credibility is important. People must be able to believe you when you tell them something. Remember, it's all about promises. You don't have an opportunity to do because you're not the government. And so when you say you're going to do something, people must be able to believe you. It takes trust. And above all, it takes voters who believe your message is genuine. So when you come and you set up this youth spokesperson panel and say that this is a way to go, and then as soon as the election is over, you can name them nearly 1 year later and come with an excuse about your wait for an election. Why should the people not suspect that it was nothing more than an election gimmick? In the months leading up to the 2025 general election, the People's National Party unveiled a series of initiatives aimed at convincing Jamaicans that the party had changed, that it was modern, forward thinking, and ready to govern. And the creation of the junior spokesperson, that was supposed to have been part of that change. A move that appeared to signal a new commitment to developing young leaders and giving the next generation a seat at the table. And that may all be very well. But here's the problem. What were those young people supposed to do? They were assigned to persons who were already spokesperson. What was their role? If you're going to be developing persons for the future, you have to give them something to do. And part of the problem, dogging the PMP to this day, is that they have not articulated a coherent, cohesive message. And what is more, they have not articulated a vision for the country. There is no policy prescription. Them flying and them flying blind. And all their mind is set on is Jamaica House and how them can attain it. That is all they're focused on. I suppose them feel so when them reach them, we figure out the rest. But unfortunately, as voters, we can't think like that. Right? You agree? Yes, of course. But today, that program has all but disappeared. When asked, one of the junior spokespersons said, the panel of spokespersons, if we may call it that, was dissolved. Mark Golding said, no, it's not dissolved. It's still very much there. But, I'm waiting on the YO election. So here is one party member asked about it by the media, saying that it was dissolved. Dissolved simply mean that, and I understand what it was that he was saying. When the election was called, there's a dissolution of parliament. In that event, I guess he was saying that the junior spokesperson panel would have been dissolved too. You understand? Because they had no more spokesperson. Everybody was just candidate. So here it is, a flagship youth program. Disappear, and now people are left to wonder whether or not it was ever intended to last or it was just another political gimmick, like so many other gimmicks. Many party members were asking about this OT Fair Club fund. It was supposed to have been an endowment fund, and then he changed it into a trust fund, which is much better because he can spend both the interest that is earned on the money as well as the principal. So that was introduced in 2020, and it was supposed to be for the benefit of party workers who fell on hard times. The last time we heard about this program was in 2025 when they appointed a new chairperson. And then them have one long list of person that is supposed to be on it just to figure out who to spend the 10 million on. So we have sent persons to try and get money out of it. And as far as we know, nothing came of it. But it is not to say that persons aren't benefiting. My problem with it is that the needs of the party workers are going to be very great. There are many of them, and they're getting older. And we have not heard that there was any effort to expand the fund. You start with, he said 15, I'm sure it was 10 that was invested. Even if it was a 15, that must be getting depleted by now. So why is it that there's no drive to try and get donation to this particular fund in order to increase it so that more and more persons can benefit? So I would call this political gimmicks. Even though it exists, it has a panel, a board, and occasionally you will hear that it might be giving out a scholarship or something to that effect, or do something for persons. But still, the mere fact that they are not making any effort to expand the fund so they can help more people is what tells me that this was just an election gimmick in order to give them an opportunity to endear themselves to the party workers in 2020. So that would have been gimmicks number one in order to help to win the 2020 internal leadership race. During the election campaign, they have many proposals, the vast majority of which cannot be implemented unless they were government. But there were one or two that they spoke of, which if they were serious, they can implement it because they're not government. But it is something that they can do by moving a motion in the House to pass a law that will give effect to what it is that they say that they think is necessary for the improvement of people. One such thing is what they call a social and identity pledges that they had made. Pledges are a serious thing, It said non-traditional cultural and social promises such as a national ban on hair discrimination and a formal state recognition of the Jamaican language. So that was what they promised. Now it has been nearly a year and we have not seen them move a motion in the House. You don't have to be government in order to move a motion in the House to give effect to any law that you think is necessary. And to date, they have not moved a motion to either put a national ban on hair discrimination, and they have not moved a motion to give a formal state recognition of the Jamaican language. Now, I don't know if anybody want any state recognition of the language because all I will be doing now is start to tell you how to spell uno, how to spell kuya, how to no left language alone if we, right? When them start to talk about now giving state recognition, them start to tell you how to pronounce word because it has to be standardized. And that is not what Patois is about. Patois is free flowing. So we don't want them to do any such thing. But what I'm saying is, and my argument is, if you believe that these are things that are necessary for social and identity pledges, then how is it that we haven't seen a motion move? So I would have to call this gimmicks number 2 and 3. Just an election ploy. They hope to win votes. They were not serious and they had no intention of implementing. Tell me what you think. This now is gimmicks number 4. It's called participatory budgeting. And it was during the election campaign that they had introduced it, the idea, and it's supposed to have been a concept of local planning and participatory budgeting to give everyday citizens a direct voice in how public resources and taxpayers' funds are allocated in their communities. Now, why did this make it to our list as gimmicks number 4? Because yes, they are not the government. However, they do have parish councils under their control. And we don't know of any participatory budgeting that is taking place in those parish councils. If you want and you believe that this is the way forward and this is good governance, why not introduce it in those parish councils where you have control? How is it that we're not seeing it in the Manchester Parish Council, or what they call municipal corporation? How is it we're not seeing it in the Westmoreland Municipal Corporation? We're not seeing it in Hanover being practiced. We're not seeing it in St. Mary being practiced. And we're not seeing it being practiced in Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation. And the municipality city in Portmore, it's not being practiced there. So if they truly believe that this was accountability and the way in which, governance structure, if they believe that this is a useful governance structure, they don't have to wait to be government. If they were serious and they meant it and they believe in it, they should be implementing it as the way forward in the municipal corporations that they control. Do you agree? And so if they're not doing it, they never intended to do it in the first place. It was just a nice sounding piece of gimmickry that they were hoping would appeal to those citizens who would have liked to, have a say in how the money and where the money is spent. So they were hoping to get on board those persons. They have been in opposition for nearly a year. And we now see it a practice in another parish council, and that is where they can practice it. They have full control in how they determine to allocate the resources, whether they are going to do it according to the law or they want to bring people and involve them in it and get advice from the people as to where they think the money should be spent. I think that this idea that they came up with came from the Spark program. The Spark program was a master stroke, and this was their answer. So they got it from the government, and now they are trying to introduce it now, thinking that the people believe them. Well, they saw Spark in action, and they participated, and them see some of them roads were being fixed that they wanted. And now they are trying to see if they could bring that over into the body politics to say that is how they would run the government. And the people did not believe them and didn't buy it. But how could they have believed them? Because the PNP was in control of those parish councils from 2024 all the way up to 2025, and they never introduced that policy. And so we now see for ourselves, 1 year later, nothing being done. Gimmicks number 4. So now we come to gimmicks number 5. National People's Assembly proposed the creation of a National Assembly. Kind of sound like something going on in Venezuela or something from a distant past, from slavery days. National Assembly, what they used to call it at that time, the House of Assembly. Sounds like Mark Golding is nostalgic for a return to his good old days when he was the Lord and Master and we were the slaves. Yes. It was a proposal to create a National Assembly, including diaspora representation. And what them creating this assembly for? To review legislation and directly shape community level policies. Legislation is what is passed in Garden House. Yes, legislation is why we put the MPs in the parliament, and the senators are appointed by the Governor General on the recommendation of the Prime Minister and leader of the opposition. They are the ones that's responsible for making the laws. So they were proposing, these risers were on the PNP, that they would set up a National Assembly, right? And when they're going to pass any law, then pass it through the National Assembly. This is my understanding of how it would work. And then local people and some foreign people will be represented in this assembly, and they are then going to what? Well, they're going to do now. Discuss it, vote on it, but according to them, it would directly shape community level policies. Now, would it be all of the legislation to be passed in the House or just those that affect a particular community? Because this is problematic. How would you determine when to put the legislation before? Is it that you're going to be making legislation to affect communities, or is it that you're going to pass some law and if it affects a particular community, you put it before this assembly and make the people and what? I don't know what they were hoping to achieve. I suspect that this was as much as to appeal to the people in the diaspora and certainly not the local people. You and I are living in this country, and that is our choice. Others have chosen to live abroad, but they still have commitment to Jamaica. They may have houses, and they may have businesses and money in the bank and so on. But when you take yourself out of the jurisdiction, you cannot be expected to be making decisions about those who have to live here and live the consequences of the decision that you make. So this is Mark Golding again. He has this thing for the diaspora because clearly he himself would have been considered a diaspora. He did not like the fact that he had to, or he was required to give up his British passport. He never liked it. And we don't know if he did any such thing, or if he even did, we don't know if he will reapply to get back in status. We can't know because the British won't tell us. Right? So he never liked that. And so what he is hoping and was hoping is to have a Jamaica where people who live a foreign by choice can have something to say about how we live our life here. In the same way in which he chose to be a British national and wanted to have a say about our country, our laws, and how much taxes we should pay and what it should be spent on. And this is what you're seeing. So if the people were stupid enough to put him in a Jamaica house, you can imagine the amount of concessions that will be made to those people who live abroad. He wanted them to be on board, serving on board, as if we don't have enough qualified people here in Jamaica. So bring people from abroad with them citizenship, and they would not be required to give it up. So then come and then put in them experiment or whatever it is them do, and then mash it up, and can just take up themselves and go foreign. Or when them lose the election, then take up themselves and go foreign. And we would be the ones who to live with the consequence of their decisions. We don't need that. That was what he was coming with. The people were well aware because the government told them. We out here was telling them, and you grab it and went all over the place and spread it and said, this is what they're coming with and we don't want it. And so the people rejected them. That was gimmicks number 5. So I would say that these were the 5 main election gimmicks that had failed. Failed to get them across the line because the people were not fooled by them. And they were selling, and the people were not buying what they were selling. They were not credible. They lied a lot. And so the people did not believe them. Did not believe what they were coming with, that they were sincere. And they can clearly see for themselves now, because they have been there. And even though they're in the parliament, they have done nothing to implement some of the things that they claim that is good for governance. They control the parish council and still they have not implemented what they claim was good governance. And so the people were correct. The people saw right through them that it was only gimmicks to try and get them into Jamaica House. They were never, ever going to put any of them in place. And it's all due to the government's effort to make the people know who these people are. Our effort as bloggers, all of us, and you, our subscribers, that took the message all about, right? And together we stop those saboteurs and underminers from taking over Jamaica House, like when they take over the PNP. And you see now, they are showing them true colors. And the people, I'm sure, if them don't know it yet, them ought to recognize what a narrow escape we had on September 3, 2025. That's it for me today, folks. Let me thank everyone for joining me today. This is the last day of July, and we had a good month, did some good work, and you support the channel as always, and I do appreciate it. What I would love, though, is to be able to get the shares up. Shares are kind of low. We're depending on YouTube to recommend, but would greatly appreciate if you'd share to at least one person that you know might be interested. And remember, please, if you like the content and thought it was good information, remember to give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you have not yet done so. And for those persons who may have subscribed already, and the new subscribers, please remember to hit that notification bell. That is how YouTube will then tell you whenever it is that I upload a video, and then you can tune in. And then you don't want to be late. You want to catch it from the start. Yes, man. So please go ahead and do so for me, please. Let me also know what you think about all of this, and whether you think there are other gimmicks that should be on our list. Tell us about it. So that's it. Take very good care of yourselves, everyone, and walk good.